Today, we will talk about the perfect crime, the tragic story of 19-year-old Jessica. The spirit of Jessica, a young woman of 19 years old, was as bright as the sun rising in the morning, and her dreams were as expansive as the ocean. Born into a humble family in a peaceful town, she was brought up with love and simplicity throughout her childhood. Jessica exhibited a brilliant intellect and an insatiable curiosity from a young age. She devoured books with an appetite for information that knew no limitations, and she was always eager to learn new things. It was early on that her professors saw her potential, and they showered her with praise and encouragement. They urged her to pursue higher education as a method of escaping the limits of their little town and reaching for the skies. However, fate had other things in store for Jessica. Before we dive deep into it, hit the like button and subscribe to get the latest updates. Here we go. Cortland, Mississippi resident Jessica Chambers, who was 19 years old at the time of her untimely death, garnered the attention of people all across the country. Her body was discovered on a remote road on December 6, 2014, severely burned close to her automobile, which was also consumed in flames. The car was also engulfed in flames. The fact that she was brought to a hospital did not prevent her from succumbing to her injuries and passing away. After conducting an investigation into her passing, it was discovered that Jessica and a man named Quentin Tellis were involved in a convoluted history. Prosecutors eventually accused Tellis with her murder, claiming that he was present with her at the time of the attack and that his DNA was discovered on her car keys. According to the allegations, Tellis was present at the time of the attack. Due to the fact that there were contradictory testimonies and evidence, the case was difficult. Tellis was put on trial, but the jury was unable to make a decision that was accepted by all of them, which resulted in a mistrial, the hypothesis that Tellis had attempted to have a sexual relationship with Jessica, but she had rejected him, and that this rejection was the cause of the murder was the central argument that the prosecution used to support their case. In light of the ferocity of the murder, Jessica's passing came as an especially devastating surprise. Over 98% of her body was burned when she was discovered, and the fire was so powerful that it turned her black Kyria white and burned her clothes. The case continues to be a traumatic memory for her family, friends, and the community as a whole, and it has sparked conversations about the protection of young women and the continued prevalence of violence in society. You may turn to a variety of publications that have thoroughly covered the case in order to obtain a more detailed narrative. These sources may include timelines of the day she passed away, insights into the investigation, and the trials that followed. Those who knew and loved Jessica Chambers have been left with a significant number of questions that have not been answered and a lingering sense of unfairness as a result of this case. Her family was struck by a catastrophe that struck like a bolt of lightning from the clear sky, just as she was on the verge of leaving on her journey to accomplish her ambitions. Following the catastrophic illness of her father, who was the primary provider for the family was left in a state of disarray and burdened with medical costs that they could hardly afford. Jessica continued to toil away in anonymity, and as the days turned into weeks, and the weeks grew into months, her dreams became more and more out of reach. Despite the fact that the burden of responsibility pressed down on her shoulders like a heavy yoke, she managed to carry it with grace and tenacity, fighting off the urge to let hopelessness overwhelm her. However, as time went on, the gleam that had been in her eyes began to fade, and it was replaced with a tiredness that appeared to be beyond her years. Despite this, Jessica continued on with her life, taking comfort in the fleeting expressions of happiness that peppered her otherwise miserable existence. Whether it was a dinner that she had with her family or a short view of the stars on a clear night, she clung to these moments like a lifeline. Despite this, Jessica's story was not yet over with tragedy. While she was under the impression that she had survived the most severe part of the storm, another blow was dealt to her family. It was her younger sister who became ill this time, and her illness was even more serious than their father's medical condition had ever been. With her reserves spent and her soul crushed, Jessica found herself on the verge of despair. It seems that you're still there. Perfect. Go ahead and press the bell icon. Let's continue. Jessica was on the verge of giving up everything. On the other hand, Jessica discovered a strength that she had no idea she possessed when she was at her lowest point. Love turned out to be her compass, illuminating the way forward even under the most difficult of circumstances. It was love for her family, for whom she had given up everything for the sake of their well-being. The love she had for her dreams, which were still a glimmer of hope in the depths of her heart, as well as love for herself, for the tenacious spirit that refused to be extinguished even in the face of tremendous obstacles. Jessica continued on despite the fact that she was carrying the weight of the entire world on her shoulders and that the echoes of the disaster were echoing in her ears. Despite the fact that her journey was defined by adversity and tragedy, it was also a demonstration of the strength of the human spirit and the resiliency of the human heart. Jessica's legacy will continue to live on in the hearts of those whose lives she touched with her unyielding courage and unconquerable spirit, even though it is possible that she may never be able to accomplish the dreams that she once held dear. This is it from our side. If you want to watch such cool stuff, then let us know in the comments and we will get back to you. Share this video with your loved ones. Goodbye.